And hi everyone, welcome to Tech Down Over. I am Rick Zanotti and I'm joined by Harold Mugliotti today. He is co-hosting kind of last minute. We don't know what happened to Geoff unless he got the wrong time, but we tried to get a hold of him, couldn't get a hold of him, so Harold jumped in. And
maybe
today
the miners got him.
Yep, and today Doug Jensen is with us again, and here we go.
Hello.
This show is sponsored by Relate Corporation at www.relate.com, your training and video partner.
Hello, I'm Peter Baker. Please visit voiceovermasterclass.com to see details of the training courses I have on offer for new and existing voice talents to further their career by enhancing voice and technical skills, as well as essential marketing tips.
And we are back in that center position of power. Yes, power. We've got Doug Jensen with us. He's back for his second visit, and we're glad to have him here. How are you, Doug?
I'm doing great, Rick. How are you? Doing great. Thanks again for having me back.
We appreciate it. And
I'm looking forward to it.
And you've got some interesting topics today. You're going to talk a little bit about that new, is it the FS9 or the FS7?
The FX9. I know it's difficult to keep up with Sony's with their camera model numbers, but I know it's going to be a constant source of confusion for people. But it's the FX9.
X9.
And
looks nice.
And yeah, it's a beautiful camera. Yes, Sony sent me one to demo a couple of weeks ago, and I had it for a few days, and had a chance to go out and shoot some indoor footage, some outdoor footage, S-Log in custom mode with regular, WYSIWYG settings, and I put it against my FS7 on a few shots to see how the two cameras compare. And it was a busy 3 days when I had the camera to get all that done, but I enjoyed it. And that bottom line is that it's a fantastic camera. Yeah.
Now what's that one running? Is that running about 7,000 or 8,000?
No, that was going to be a little more. That was going to be about 10,000.
About 10. Okay.
And then there are a couple of it that includes viewfinder, battery, all that stuff.
Okay.
That's out. That's up and running. Except for a lens, of course. And then there's going to be what they call the XDCA extension back, kind of like the extension back that the FS7 has, and that's an optional back that you can put on it, and that'll give you the ability to use a V-Lock brick style battery, and output stuff to a external to a raw recorder output and that sort of thing. The one difference between the FS7's XDCA back and the FX9's XDCA back, so the FX9 has its timecode inputs and outputs built right into the camera. So people that previously had to buy that XDCA back to get timecode in and out of their FS7, that's not an issue now with the FX9 because they put those jacks directly on the camera instead of require you to upgrade to that.
Now, is this considered a cinema camera?
Yes, absolutely, because it's full frame. In fact, anybody who's familiar with the FS7, if you're familiar with the FS7, basically this is an FS7 on steroids with a full frame sensor. And that's really the best way to describe it. It's a full frame FS7. They've improved several other things on it as well, and it's a fantastic camera. But really, when you boil it all down, it's a an FS7 Mark II, because it has variable ND like the FS7 Mark II, with a full frame sensor. So yeah.
And does it just use
my question in demoing it, was it good enough to upgrade to sell off my FS7 and upgrade to the FX9? Because if I didn't have any camera at all, it's a no-brainer. I'd buy the FX9, no question about it. But is it enough of an improvement to go from the FS7 to the FX9? And I still haven't made up my mind about that one yet. I don't know. I'm going to hang on to the FS7 a little bit longer, and I'll see if I'm going to upgrade to the 9 or not.
And does that one use their normal E-mount lenses, or which mount does it?
Yes.
Okay.
It uses E-mount. I think all their cinema cameras are going to have E-mount lenses from here on out, because even the $75,000 Venice uses an E-mount lens, and that shocked people. E-mount when people came out, but the beautiful thing about the E-mount is you can adapt any lens pretty much in the world to an E-mount, and In my own case, I don't really have any full frame E-mount lenses, so I mostly used it with PL lenses with a Metabones adapter that I've got.
Yeah.
You know.
And the Metabones on that one
it's other big. Oh, sorry.
I was just saying the Metabones can handle the video on that one.
Yes, the Metabones adapters that I have, a couple of them, one from Metabones and one from another one called Hot Rod Camera. They're E-mount, they're PL to E-mount adapters, and they're just a hunk of metal, really. They don't have any glass in them, they don't have any electronics.
Oh, okay.
It just allows me to physically mount those lenses onto the camera.
Yep.
Now, if you had other Metabones adapters that have some electronics in them,
right, those don't always work.
Canon EF lenses on there, that sort of stuff, and you'd have autofocus and communication with the camera. But just personally, I'm not a huge fan of shooting video with SLR lenses. I prefer the ergonomics and feel of a cinema lens. So I'm a little bit spoiled in that regard. So autofocus doesn't matter too much to me. So I'm happy to use just a dumb adapter with no electronics. Just hook it on the camera, mount the lens, and go to work.
And the electronic ones.
For other people that want,
And the electronic ones have some issues, especially in video, because they can't keep up.
Yes.
Metabones, we have the Metabones Speed Booster on the Panasonic line. It does a pretty good job, but if you're trying to film something that's moving a little quick, you may or may not get the focus you want. We also have a Photo Diox, which is not bad, but it has some focus issues. Well, not so much focus, though it does. It has some setting issues, especially with aperture or shutter settings. And I think it's because there's a little switch on it that if you hold your lens underneath or on the side, like I have a tendency to, it triggers it. It's real easy to trigger it. And when you do that, none of your settings work. You can't change your aperture. You can't. I'm going, what's going on? This isn't working. Yeah. And this morning, I think we recognized what it was, that you can just barely touch it, and it puts it into manual control mode from the lens. And you just go, great. So it's all those little things. Going native is probably the easiest.
Well, the nice thing about the FS7 Mark II and now the FX9 with the electronic variable ND, I don't even need aperture control on the lens at all anyway. In fact, I do have a couple of one Canon lens, my 200 to 400 with a built-in 1.4 extender that I use for wildlife and rocket launches, and I took that out with the FX9, and the adapter I have to go from that Canon EF to E-mount has no electronics either. I think it's a Photo Diox, like you said, and like you just mentioned, and it has no electronics. So with some cameras, they were like, that's a real issue, because how the hell are you going to change iris on those lenses because you have no control over that unless you have electronic control from the camera. But with the variable ND on the cameras, who cares? Because I'm going to shoot full wide open on all my lenses all the time anyway. That's my choice. I shoot wide open on every lens all the time, and that's super easy to do with these new cameras that have the electronic variable ND, because it's like having a dimmer on the camera.
I know.
If you just let the lens be full wide open, if it's too bright, you just dial it down to exactly the point that you want. Just a little teeny. It's seamless. You can't even see it changing, just like the dimmer on like a nice LED light, and that just revolutionizes how you can set exposure. Once you get variable ND on a camera like that, and I think only Sony cameras have it at this point, you're just spoiled for it. It's hard to go back to anything else.
Well, they have it on the Canons too. You get like a 3-stop, maybe more sometimes, depending on which camera it is. And the same thing. It's great. They have the variable,
okay.
But it's not, well, like for example, the EOS R system, the new one, their new mirrorless system, they have an adapter with the mirrorless, actually with the ND filters, actually variable ND actually in the adapter, and that's all it does. It just works on the end, and it's great. It really makes a difference on what you're doing. And on the video cameras, they have about a 3 or 4 stop variable ND, which for the most part is good enough. So they do have that. It's probably not as fleshed out as it could be. They could really add more stops. It would be nice.
When you say variable ND, I'm not familiar with those cameras. Are you saying that you click it and it's like 2 stops, click it and it's like 3 stops, click it and it's like 6 stops?
Yeah, you press a soft. Yeah, you press a soft.
That is not how the Sony.
How does the Sony's probably smoother, right?
Sony goes from 2 stops up to 7 stops,
Nice.
infinitely variable in between.
That's
it is truly
nice.
just like a dimmer.
Yeah.
And it's not doing anything electronically with the gain. It is
No.
actually varying the opacity of the piece of glass that's in the light
Yeah,
path.
nice.
So they're just electronically making this piece of glass dark. It's seamless. There's
Oh,
no...
they're doing what they do on some planes, like the Boeing
Yes.
787. You press.
Yes,
you
I've
can,
been on those planes.
Yeah, I'm dying to go on. I think I have
Yeah,
a
so
flight
this-
in about 2 weeks on one of those. I'm excited.
So they've
because it
eliminated
is so
that
cool.
problem.
Yeah, they electrostatically changed the color.
That's and this with the opacity. So color doesn't change, but the opacity changes
Yes.
infinitely.
Yeah.
And the cool thing, because always a problem with built-in ND filters on video cameras has always been, 2 stops is not enough,
No.
4 stops is too much.
Mhm.
You always got to find something in the middle. Here, once you get 2 stops is the minimum, but once you get to 2 stops, you can go all the way to 7 stops. It just in fractions
Wow,
of
that's
an
nice.
exposure, just get it just perfectly, anything between 2 and 7 stops, and that's revolutionary.
That
kind
is
of
nice.
technology.
Yeah. Hey, do you get any of that green casting you get with a lot of the ND filter lenses that you buy?
No, because it's not. A lot of the variable ND filters you've seen before, have the the rotating polarizers that are
Yep.
working, and this is totally not like that. at all.
Totally electronic.
And the
Nice.
totally electronic and totally invisible. It doesn't change the color cast or anything. It's completely invisible. Yeah,
That is
it's-
nice.
It's pretty revolutionary. Yeah.
Sony's
enjoy
funny
that.
because on the one hand, they put out a lot of cameras, and they've also been heavily into the cinema line for a long time. Canon is
Yep.
very big in the cinema line. They're probably the 2 biggest competitors. Panasonic has some cinema stuff, but Sony, I don't think, gets enough credit for what they do. I'm not quite sure why, because they really put out some good hardware. But either they don't market as well, or Canon has a good marketing program to tell everybody we're the best at this, and everybody else is trying to be us, and people believe it because Sony has done some incredible things with tech that other people haven't.
Yeah, I have a theory about that.
Yeah.
And this is just my own theory. And, because Sony can't seem to really get any traction at the really high end in
No.
Hollywood either, where it's all Area Alexa and
Yep.
that kind of stuff, or Red. They can't get any traction there either, even though arguably the Venice and the F65 before that are superior cameras to a lot of those cameras that
Yeah.
Hollywood are using. But you know what their biggest problem is? Has the Sony name on the side.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Sony with your cool people, your Hollywood types, and that sounds more negative than I mean it to sound. But people that work in those realms, that has the same feeling to me that if you say you're working on a Mac, on a PC computer, it's like PC computer, I'm a Mac guy,
Right.
So Sony is like, they're corporate, they're mainstream, they're not cool. So
Yeah.
I honestly think that is if you go to the TV side for broadcast, Sony's everywhere. Sony's
Everywhere,
accept
yeah.
Sony, that's what it is. But if you go to the cinema side, that's like, no, that's too. What's the right word? Too corporate, too something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
too consumer. Yeah. And it's funny because if you look at Sony's history, they were the radicals. They never followed what everybody else did. They were always innovating. They were doing new things. Back in the 60s and 70s, Sony was like, who are these people? How can they do this? How dare they do this? And they were doing new things when nobody else was. They revolutionized quite a few industries, and they've always been involved. I still hear people go, well, they're not really a camera company. No, they have a camera division, which is huge. Canon has a huge copier division. And if you look at the Aria, Alexa Mini, and all those, how many people want to spend $53,000 to $80,000 on a camera?
Right.
That has one slot and isn't all that reliable. It's sort of interesting. People forget that. Now, that being said, I was watching the new Jack Ryan series, season 2 of the Jack Ryan. It's an Amazon original. It's really well done. The old Tom Clancy,
Well done.
Jack
Okay,
Ryan.
I haven't seen it yet. I was wondering.
Oh, I love it. And I was watching, and the first one I was looking at, I really liked the first series. I just finished watching the second. And I'm thinking, what the hell are they filming with? It looks beautiful. It's an Arri Alexa Mini, 53 grand camera, and it looks. And they're doing single camera shoot the whole show.
I just got an email yesterday that was, I don't know if you've ever heard of the cinematographer's mailing list, CML. It's a subscription-based mailing list that, that has several different email lists. It's the old-fashioned kind of a way of doing stuff before forums. And someone put on there maybe a couple of days ago, maybe yesterday, a couple of days ago, the latest at their list, and it was like a list of like the top 60 films that are probably in Oscar contention this year for cinematography. And it had a list of what they were and what they were shot on, the cinematographer, and there's some information about what the film was. And I was looking through that the other day just to see what was on there, and I was surprised because I expected everything to be Arri Alexa, down the list, which essentially it was Arri down the list. There's like one Sony Venice and a few Reds. Everything else is Arri, which is exactly what I expected. Yeah. But here's the weird thing. I would say 3/4 of those that were Arri were the Mini. They weren't the full-size Alexa. They weren't the full-frame Alexa, whatever they call that. It was the Mini, and I was thinking, wow, the
Mini's the big one now.
That just shocked me that these people working on these big feature films with 5 camera assistants and camera trucks and all this equipment, hardware stuff, that's their choice is the Alexa Mini, and that surprised me.
Yeah, it is interesting.
But it is very good.
And again, the Mini at $53,000 is a deal. So that's probably why they're buying them. You can have 2 of those for the price of one of the other ones sometimes. So, it's pretty amazing. But it does look good. That Jack Ryan show, I was watching it, the colors and the depth and the high dynamic rate, everything just looks really good. And
things look so good today.
And I was kind of hoping it wasn't an Alexa, it was something else. But no, it was that one. Just to see that other people are coming up. Maybe it's a Sony, maybe it's a Canon.
7 or something.
Yeah, anything, but no.
I have another theory that I'll share with you that I was talking to someone about this the other day, and that's that 5 or 6 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, we reached the point with DSLRs that it doesn't really matter which DSLR you buy because they're all going to look almost the same. I don't care if you buy, I have a 5D Mark IV. Does it look that much different than somebody else's camera that costs you half of that or 1/3 of that? No, they're very similar. The SLRs reached the point where their quality plateaued, and now all the cameras kind of look the same. More megapixels isn't going to really make much difference to you, and you're paying for features and functions and durability and build quality and speed for a rapid fire, burst mode, and those kind of bells and whistles. But if you just look at image quality, there's not much difference. No. And I see us entering that same era now, basically with the video cameras, especially the cinema cameras. They are all reached the plateau where they all look probably good enough for, in the right hands, with the right lighting, the right workflow. You don't have to have a Sony Venice. You don't have to have a Sony F55. You don't have to have an Arri Alexa or the top of the line Red, whatever that is today, to have a good looking film. There are many cameras much lower than that are going to maybe not have as many bells and whistles, be missing some features and functions. But if you just look at image quality, I think the lenses are the same way too, with all the computerized manufacturing and design that go into lenses now. The difference between one lens and another is not huge, and that's why a lot of people are going back to vintage lenses and stuff, because the modern lenses just look too good almost.
Yeah, it's almost amazing, but you're right. There's a lot of resurgence of lenses from the 50s, 60s, 70s. They're starting to bring back some of the old, what were they, radiation lenses. I mean, they were uranium based. They were treated with uranium coatings, and they're actually radioactive, but minimally so. I mean, you can't be exposed too long, but the pictures they take are amazing.
Like the dial on my watch.
Yeah.
It glows in the dark, but that's because it's radioactive.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating what they're doing. And if you look at the old SLR lenses from back in the 60s, even 50s and 70s, they look good. There's something about them,
absolutely.
micro contrast, something looks really good. And
If
I
they
think
were
they've
good
got.
enough to take-
No, what do you think, Doug? I think they've got way too many elements in these lenses. I'd rather see a lens flare than a fake non-lens flare. It's just sort of
Yes, I think so.
interesting. I like
I
lens
agree with
flares.
you.
I don't have an issue with them. Instead, everybody goes to
I agree.
Photoshop or After Effects and puts them in now. It's like, wait a minute.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah,
and I
that's-
kind of think that it's not so much that lenses are looking too good nowadays. I think it's more like what you were saying with the cameras, is that the lenses are not looking that different across different brands and all that. So people are going to vintage lenses which have a different look. They're trying to stand out by getting something that has a sort of unique look,
Yes.
even if that's something that, you know, previously would have been considered imperfection or you know, flaws in
Absolutely.
the image quality.
Now, Doug, you're doing something interesting. You're shooting with the big Sony cameras, the beautiful cinema cameras, but you've got a 5D Mark IV. Now, that's an interesting combo there.
All right.
What
Well,
makes
I'm
you
gonna-
like? What makes you like the Canon over, let's say, like an A9 or an A7 R3 or 4? What made you go that way?
Okay, that's an easy one to answer.
Yeah.
Because I would never shoot video with my 5D. It is strictly only for stills.
Got it.
And when it comes to shooting stills, for the way that I like to shoot, I still want to have a true optical viewfinder and a single and a mirror. The don't get me wrong, the newer cameras that have the electronic OLED viewfinders, those viewfinders are gorgeous. And if I was going to shoot video with one of those small cameras, a mirrorless camera, DSLR, I'd absolutely want to have an OLED viewfinder. But that's not what I have my 5D for. My 5D is strictly for shooting stills, and I still would much rather have a purely optical viewfinder and super fast autofocus and other features that are built for shooting stills. And its video functions are just an extra tack-on thing that I will never use. So,
Yeah, and of course on the 5D Mark IV, Canon kind of blew it with the motion JPEG. It is huge. 1 hour of video is about 255 gigabytes. It's a lot of gigabytes for an hour of video
That's
on a DSLR.
that is on a DSLR. yeah.
It looks good. I mean, the video does look good, but it's you definitely have a lot of processing power you've got to use on the back end to massage that afterwards. Even to re-render it as something else, it's going to take a while.
Well, and that's a good point there too. I'm not against the 5D because I don't think it looks good enough. And if somebody can enjoy shooting with that camera and they can accept the ergonomics of it and the lack of features on it, fine, go ahead. I'm not going to say don't shoot the 5D because your video is going to look terrible. I'm going to say that I choose not to shoot with a DSLR or mirrorless camera because they do not have the features and functions that I require in a professional video production camera. And that, to me, that requires either a broadcast style ENG camera or one of the modern cinema cameras. And I don't want to bother with those other things that I personally feel are just not going to work for me. But if you're younger, you've never worked with the bigger, heavy-duty professional cameras, and maybe you don't quite know what you're missing, or maybe you're just you can't teach an old Doug new tricks. Maybe someone younger can learn different things, but I'm set in my ways. I'm not going to shoot with the 5D because of all the features and functions that it lacks and the ergonomics, not so much because of the picture quality.
And actually, if you think about it, the camcorders or the video cameras are just really made for that. And the DSLRs have a very unbalanced form factor. So what do people do? They rig them up to be even bigger than a video camera, and then they go, there, now I can shoot just like a video camera.
Exactly.
And then you buy a video camera. Yeah, it's just like, I never quite got that one. And we've shot some video with DSLRs, but for the most part, every time we have to shoot something for real, we tend to go back to video cameras. Just, the ergonomics are better.
Yes. Yep. And in my business, I can't afford to miss a shot. I can't afford to just say, we'll do another take, or I'll go burn into my bag and get a different camera for this or something. I need a camera I can just pull out of the bag and start shooting. And that's That's why most professional production is still being done on true camcorders, and that's why even if you go to the level of Hollywood, they're not shooting stuff on a 5D anymore.
No.
Maybe they did for a little bit because we didn't have big sensor video cameras. But whatever panache those cameras had, whatever place they had 5-6 years ago, has been replaced because we've got full frame or even super 35 millimeter size cinema cameras that are much better suited for shooting video than an SLR.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I've asked a lot
the
of
cost of the camera is nothing.
and I ask a lot of videographers I know, and they shoot daily, and these are mostly Canon guys that I know, and I said, why do you use the Canon C200, 300 all the time? They go, hey, they just don't break. That's their whole thing is they don't break on the set. And I went, that's a good one, I guess. That's important.
And maximum compatibility with their lenses that they may already own too. I think that gives Canon a leg up over Sony and other brands in this mid-level tier that we're talking about. Is that whatever functionality you could get on a Sony camera or a Red or a Black Magic or something by using the right adapter with a Canon lens is still probably not going to match what you would get by putting a Canon lens on a Canon camera. I mean, that's a combination that's complete.
Now, have you ever shot with like a C200, 300, any of those?
No, I have not.
No,
nope.
I was just curious to see if you had a comparison of, how they feel. I had a C100 for a very short time, literally about 2 days, and I turned it back in. Not because I didn't like the camera had a great body, it looked good. I couldn't read the viewfinder. I couldn't read the back.
Oh, okay.
The font was so small. And I had one of the other guys in here was looking at it going, I can't read it either. And he had 20/20 vision. I'm going, it's not just me. He goes, no, this is, well, they also had a translucent viewfinder. So the menu was translucent on top of what you were filming. So if you were filming something bright, you can't read the screen anymore. And I was going, how do I get around this? And I thought, I'm not going to get around it. And other people that I know who shoot it said the C100 had that problem. Now they fixed it, I think, and they changed it. But those are interesting things.
Viewfinder. You say viewfinder, is that like the flip up LCD?
It's an electronic viewfinder. Yeah, it's a flip up LCD kind of thing. Yeah, and they had an electronic viewfinder too, and that was hard to see.
That's one thing I've got to have on a camera when I'm shooting videos. I've got to have that electronic viewfinder that I can tilt up, tilt back. It has a diopter on it, so I can adjust it for my vision. And I'm not going to be able to follow wildlife or follow focus action of people walking or moving by looking at an LCD screen. I've got to have a true viewfinder, and not just a little viewfinder on the back of a mirrorless camera that I have to squat down to look at. I've got to have a true video
it comes right up at you.
Viewfinder.
Yep.
And and I think some of these newer cameras, I'm shocked. Like, I think that, could be wrong, I think I'm correct in saying this, I think like the Panasonic EVA 1, that does not come with a viewfinder. So I think, the camera's less expensive. Yeah, but it doesn't have a viewfinder. By the time you spend a couple $1,000s to get a decent viewfinder on there, you're way, and then how are you going to power that viewfinder? How's it going to communicate with the camera? That's one thing I love about the Sony cameras, is like, you buy the camera, it's got a truly fantastic OLED viewfinder or a nice, even if it's an LCD screen built into it. And to me, that's mandatory on a camera like that. Mandatory. It's not an added accessory. I have to have it. Yeah,
and what a difference.
Yes.
What a difference. Well, Doug, you're not going to believe it. We wanted to talk about the stock footage, but we're actually out of time.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But that's okay. That gives us another excuse to get you back on soon.
That's right.
Yeah, we love
stock
having
footage.
you on. And
anybody with a camera who's not using stock, who's not shooting stock footage in your spare time, you damn well should be, because there's a lot of money to be made in stock footage.
Yeah, we want to talk about that because we'll leave this as a cliffhanger, because that is a really important subject. If do you remember about 5-6 years ago, the stock footage market died, and it's coming back now.
I do not remember that.
Yeah, if you look at the
the stock photo business, died.
Yeah, but even stock footage, like the kind of standard, more prosumer type, like audio, like video blocks and others, they went from charging $1,000 a year to $99, and now they're up to $200. They've gone up again, and other ones like that, Footage Bank and others, were having a hard time. They couldn't give it away almost. But now it's starting to come back,
Huh.
which is good.
Well, see, I look at it from a contributor. I know that. I look at it from a contributor standpoint, not what the company's doing. And from a
Yeah.
contributor standpoint, I'm making more money off of stock footage than ever before.
That's great. Yeah,
Keeps
we've
going
got
up and
cameras
up
that
every
just hit
month.
fallow sometimes, so we should do that too.
Absolutely, and it improves your shooting skills to go out and shoot stock footage. You
Yeah.
don't have a client looking over your shoulder. You don't have to perform. You can try different things. You can spend time mastering your craft. You become a better shooter by going out and doing stock footage than you would otherwise. I've been in the business for 35 years. When I got serious about doing stock footage like 7-8 years ago,
Wow.
I know that I became a better cameraman after
Yep.
that. Just
Yeah,
because
that's
you
great.
do it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, stay tuned. Next time we'll
Okay.
have Doug
We'll
back
talk about
on,
it
and
next
he'll
time.
tell us all about stock footage, because there's a lot of us who have cameras we're not using all the time. Might as well put them to good use.
Absolutely. You'll pay for that camera in no time at all.
Hey, Doug, we wish you a very happy Thanksgiving next week, and just enjoy everything, and look forward to having you back on real soon so we can get this topic just nailed down. That'll be great.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Well, good. Well, have a good one.
Well,
Thank you
thank you.
much. We'll have your information, contact info below. And if you like the show, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and we'll have Doug back on real soon for some more good content. Have a good one, everyone. Thanks. Bye-bye. And we are